Hi, and welcome to session 19. We're on day 19 of our 21-day challenge. And so, what are we going to talk about? This is a topic that people have requested for, and I thought, why not pick it up as we go along this 21-day challenge? Because more and more people are talking about, or the media is talking about, the need to learn during this time. And you come across so many updates from websites and apps and all kinds of teachers and coaches who say, make the most out of this time, learn a new skill, do something. And it's almost beginning to pressurize people as if there is something wrong with them. And if they don't really make use of this time to learn a new skill or to really become a totally different person, then there is essentially something wrong with them. And I'm here to really crease out all those questions, doubts, and share with you some very, very important tips. So I guess you've already guessed what the topic is for today. It is your learning and your expansion. So, hi, this is Vidisha Kaushal, your coach and catalyst in creating a conscious life. So, I'm going to share with you five very, very important tips which have helped me a lot in my journey of learning. There was a phase, learning comes in phases. There was a phase where I was hungry, thirsty for constantly learning. And when a person is really hungry, you give them anything, they will grab it, right? That's how I was at that moment in time. So along came some of the most beautiful resources and also came some of the most misleading resources. Some of the things that I did not have this calmness or the centeredness to really examine what I was being offered. So I just jumped in. So first phase of the cycle was when I was absorbing and learning so much. And then the second phase started where I was beginning to feel overwhelmed. I was beginning to feel cluttered constantly. So, what happens then? You don't start thinking about what I can do differently sometimes. At least I didn't. I started thinking about, oh, all this doesn't help, and look at how it's cluttered me. And, other people are better off who don't even pick up all of this and don't even feel the need to learn. So I went on that tangent, and I'm sure many of you have done that. But naturally, this cycle goes through another phase. And luckily for me, I did keep learning, I did keep absorbing, being a spiritual seeker. So soon enough, I came to realize that there are certain aspects which are very, very important when it comes to learning, when it comes to my own expansion. And if I get these right, there is no end to my learning journey. We as human beings are meant to be learning, are meant to be unlearning. This cycle needs to carry on constantly. So, with that said, let me actually get down straight away to those five very, very important tips. These are easy, these are going to make life easier for you. And actually, these are very, very natural. It's just that I'm summing it up in 5 points, but you will naturally arrive at these. The point is, I'm just helping you catalyze your journey, right? If you're a true seeker, you will anyway go through everything and arrive at these. I'm here to help make your journey easier, make it a little less painful so that you don't suffer from delusion, from people, from programs, from events, and all of that. So it's just an offering from my side, considering my own experience, considering the experience of so many clients that I work with. So let's get started with this. First tip, I'm going to actually start with a story. There was a father and a son, and they went camping. And it was a beautiful night, and the son said, let's camp here. So they pitched a tent and they sat down and they started talking about what's going on and all of that and how beautiful it is. It was a lovely experience for both of them. And now what happens is the son is fast asleep. In the middle of the night, the father wakes him up and he says, son, look up there. What can you see? And the son looks up and he says, sparkling stars, Dad. And he says, okay, what else can you see? He said, I can see the moon, and apparently the moon is there, and so are all the other planets. So I wonder if that light is a planet. And we did learn about planets in school. And he said, okay, what else can you see? He said, I can see a bright light, which is kind of, flickering. Maybe that's an aircraft. And we learned about aircrafts also in school. So the father said, okay, what else can you see? He said, see, we learned a lot about astronomy. And astronomy tells us this, and astronomy tells us that. And he went on to share everything that he knew about astronomy. He even went on to say that there is a scientist by the name of Hubble who discovered that the universe is always expanding. So the father said, okay, but how is that useful? Tell me, what else can you see? So he said, I can see this, and maybe this is that planet, and maybe there is going to be a different constellation tomorrow. And we learned that also in school. And the father said, okay, how is that useful? So he looked at his father and he said, Father, what do you want me to really be able to see? So the father looks at the son and says, do you realize our tent has been stolen? So that sums up the essence of point number one. Is your learning leading you to acquire more and more knowledge, or is it helping you translate that into wisdom? There is a big difference between the two, isn't it? So are you acquiring more and more knowledge? There are blogs, there are newsletters, there are websites, there are apps, there are people, everything, you're being bombarded by it. So are you really, before you pick up any program, before you get onto any challenge such as this, before you get into any form of learning, ask yourself, is this going to help me acquire more knowledge, or is this going to lead me to more wisdom? It is always wiser to create a pool of wisdom within you. Now, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Knowledge is kind of like acquiring the raw material, and wisdom is kind of something that emerges from within you. It's a realization from within you. So, is it wrong to acquire knowledge? Absolutely not. We learn so much, we acquire so much knowledge about aspects which are not even occurring in our lives right now. So, for example, if we are learning about the stars and the planets, it's not because it's actually happening in my life and I get a chance to straight away translate that into wisdom. But if that is my intent, then imagine the form of learning I will create for myself or for my child. Let's say I'm learning about something. Can I actually apply it, right? So knowledge can be acquired, but very little of it needs to be in the knowledge pool. Most of our learning as adults, especially, needs to be in the pool of wisdom. Otherwise, it just becomes clutter. It just overwhelms us and it doesn't help us. Some amount of knowledge is very, very important because it's like sowing the seeds and you never know when the seed might sprout. So don't discount that at all. But again, ask yourself, what am I feeling called out to? Don't just go for things because this certification is in fashion and that is, ask yourself if it falls out to you. And remember that your learning is a reflection of your expansion. It has to be in sync with who you are. So it has to create a pool near you into which you're expanding literally. Can you visualize that? An energetic pool into which you're expanding. That is what learning truly is. It's not about picking up books and reading one book after the other and not being able to apply it. Okay, that's very, very important. And that's part of simplifying your learning also, because it is very important to simplify. Whatever you simplify, it will actually stay with you. Try teaching a child in a complicated way, giving them too much knowledge, and they will get put off instantly. Try teaching them in a simple way, and they will remember. In fact, the more experiential the learning is, the better we retain it, right? Those who are in the field of learning and development, they know what I'm talking about. Every company works very, very hard to make all the learning experiential. So the same thing is applicable to you. When companies do that for you, why can't you do it for yourself? It's absolutely our responsibility to do that. What is my second tip? My second tip is connected to the first one, which is reduce the clutter. Reduce the clutter. Spend some time today, right after this video. Spend 15 minutes unsubscribing from every newsletter that you have not even opened and it's just sitting in your mailbox, and take out all those learning resources that are not calling out to you because they're simply cluttering your learning field. That field of energy that I was talking about, it's getting cluttered. So you are expanding into clutter. You don't want to do that? Change it, right? So create clarity for yourself. Be clear, okay? So in this moment, it is very, very important, especially when we're talking about virtual learning, digital learning, simply make a list of programs that you would like to go with, and make sure there are not too many. Anything more than one or maximum maybe two programs is not going to happen. Let's get that right. Okay. Life contains too many components to run three things, five things at the same time. So as I speak right now, pause this video and sit and make a list of your two things, or maximum, if you're an excellent learner, if you're somebody who's really, really good at this, maybe three, not more than that. And decide that you're going to unsubscribe from everything else. You're going to clean your plate. You're going to get it all out. Because imagine it's giving you the feeling that I haven't done something. It's in fact creating the reversal. Instead of expansion, you are contracting. You're feeling less than who you are. So this kind of cluttering is leading to the opposite effect. Be careful. You don't want to fill your bucket with 1 mug of water and leak out 6 mugs of water, right? This is very similar to that. So get rid of everything that's obsolete, everything that doesn't serve you, everything that comes from a space of fear, right? Old stuff saying, no, 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 what if I need it? Please clear it away, okay? Because your learning needs to come from a space of clarity. That field must be protected, must be kept clear, must be fed the best resources. Also, we are learning unconsciously. Remember one thing, your learning is happening whether you like it or not. Now, you get to either consciously create the learning or unconsciously. Unconsciously, how are you learning? When you watch an ad that says, if you use my product, only then are you worth it, you are creating unworthiness learning within you. If you're watching movies which propagate the kind of body that is not even real, that's not even healthy, but which is fashionable, you are creating learning within you which says that this is the kind of body I need to aspire towards. Even if you've not created a conscious goal, unconsciously you're being programmed. All the programming that is happening to you through the media, through the news, through the people around you, through the political leaders that you listen to, through the religious leaders that you listen to, all of that is programming. Some of it might actually serve you. Keep it. Your parents might be teaching you something wonderful. Keep it. The rest of it, please unlearn. Unlearning is such an important part. Deprogram yourself. How do you do it? First of all, replace these programs with your conscious, clear learning path. You start programming yourself instead of allowing everything around you to program you unconsciously. You start programming yourself, and that is the learning which is conscious learning. So with that said, create clarity, reduce the clutter. Very, very important. You can't bring in new things if your house is already full, isn't it? So let's get on to the next one. Yeah, before I do that, also understand when you have 10 things and you're focusing on them, your focus gets scattered across all those 10 things. Imagine having two things and then you're focusing on it. The sharpness of that focus, the effectiveness of it is enhanced multiple times. And there, your learning will create powerful shifts in your life. And that's what you want to do. You want to move into that pool of expansion, isn't it? So that is where your learning will move into that pool of expansion. It will lead to powerful shifts, right? Okay, so the next one is expand your horizon. Now that sounds contradictory. First, I was talking about reducing your focus, but this is what life is. It's a balance of sometimes seemingly opposing forces. How do you expand your scope of learning? You expand your scope of learning by learning from everything which comes from a higher source. Okay, so one of the easiest things that we can access even today, even in this time, is nature. Even if you're not out in nature during these times, you can just stand and observe nature. Stand in your balcony, stand in your rooftop, stand by your window, wherever you are. Observe nature. Nature has a beautiful way of teaching you without any school, without any formal programs. How do the tribals learn? And look at their intelligence quotient. It is far, far above the so-called civilized population. Their health is better, their happiness is better. Look at children. How do children learn? Children learn through nature. The very process of birth, a child births itself. And who tells the child where to go, how to emerge out of the birth canal? It is simply nature guiding the child. And if the most powerful process on earth, which is coming into life, can occur through nature, then what can not occur through nature? So it's very simple. Sit and observe nature for some time, and you will get ideas, you will get creative juices flowing. Learning will happen naturally. It is not connected to the plant that you're looking at. It's not as if you will suddenly become an expert in plants. But just by observing a tree, by observing a plant, by observing the sky, by looking at the birds, your field of consciousness will suddenly expand. And isn't that what learning is all about? Eventually, you're picking up all knowledge to expand your field of consciousness. So this directly leads you to that. Anything which is coming from a higher source is a great expansion of your learning field. And that's how you expand your field of consciousness. You expand your field of learning. I've learned so much from nature. I remember once just sitting and watching insects just carry something. And suddenly I was facing some difficulty, some challenge. And the breakthrough idea just came in that moment. That's the kind of learning we want to do. That's the kind of expansion. Without getting into a problem solving program, I actually was able to solve a problem straight away. And that is how nature works. It is not based on a school, it is not based on obsolete curriculum. It is based on direct vibrational shifts within you. So don't miss out on that. That's very, very important. So that's the third point, right? With that, let's move to the fourth one, which is always examine what is the intent behind whatever I am doing right now. If I'm trying to learn from a space of fear and inadequacy, if that is the energy behind my process of learning, the outcome will definitely manifest more fear, more inadequacy, more unworthiness within me. History is filled with examples of people who were motivated by anger or motivated by their own fears, and they went on to achieve big, big achievements. But you know what? If they didn't allow their fear to get transmuted into pure zest and spirit for life, you know what happens? Even when they have achieved the achievement, they're still filled with bitterness. They're still filled with pain. So, what did the achievement get them? Just an ego boost? No happiness? Is that the kind of success that you want? If not, then allow yourself to always examine. I want to learn to cycle, for example. Now, here's a secret. I don't know how to cycle till today. So cycling is something I want to do. For the longest time, my intent behind cycling was one of fear, was one of inadequacy. Even my child can cycle. Why can't I? So and so will cycle. I can't. So it was coming from that space. Never happened. I know when the intent behind is one of joy. I just want to feel the wind against my hair as I cycle down my lane. That is when the magical cycling moment happens. And that's how learning happens for each one of us. If it comes from a space of, I am like a beautiful rose, which is just meant to blossom from a bud to a half bloom to a full bloom to a magnificent rose, that's the kind of learning journey we need to have. So the intent behind our learning is very, very important. Always make sure and remember the intent of all forms of learning is the expansion of your pool of consciousness. Everything else is just a medium to get there. Okay. So if you're putting in poor energy into the first starting itself, you're not going to manifest something amazing out of it. So make sure you stand like a very, very important guard right at the outset, saying, I decide what energy goes into this. Even if my first intent is that of fear, can I relook at it? Can I relook at my intent? Okay, I don't know how to play the guitar. I would like to play the guitar. Maybe my first thought is one of fear, one of inadequacy, but can I flip it around? Right? We've done flipping in earlier sessions. So can I make it something like, I love the sound of guitar. I love the rhythm of it. I love how the strings sound. I'd love to have it as background music for my meditations. And that becomes a beautiful reason and an intent for your learning process. With that, I come to the last one. Very, very important. I would say if this doesn't happen, everything else falls flat. And that is integration. Too many times I see very, very successful programs, very, very high selling programs and coaching sessions and all kinds of learning resources, giving a lot, and people are receiving, and there's a lot of knowledge being poured into them, and there is no integration. Now, one of the ways of making sure your knowledge translates into at least some wisdom is that you integrate. So one very simple way of integrating is something that I've been teaching you from almost day one of this 21-day challenge, which is, what are the three things you're taking back? Now that's a very easy way. Let's say you've received an ocean of knowledge. How do you, from that ocean, condense it to something that will affect you from tomorrow onwards? How can you make sure that this leads to some shift in your own life? Only then does it become wisdom. Only then does it become part of the pool of consciousness. So narrow it down to three things, or maximum five things. I would say three, because five is a big number. So how do you narrow it down to three things that you can pick up from it, implement in your life, or at least absorb, let the seeds sprout? And that is, my friends, one of the easiest ways of integrating. Another easy way of integrating is that if you attended a retreat, if you attended a program, after that, allow yourself a few days to let it all process unconsciously also. Your subconscious mind is very, very powerful, but it needs that time to absorb, integrate, and implement the things that you're talking about or you've received. If we finish one program and we run into another very intense event, that doesn't happen. So it's a waste then. So many times, haven't we said, oh, it was a lovely program, but I didn't really follow it? Why does that happen? Because you don't take time to integrate. In that time, you could consciously create changes, but some changes are going to happen unconsciously also. Be open to that. Be open to learning in all its beautiful ways. I love how learning can come in so many ways. Very few of those ways belong in a classroom. Very, very few. Almost all of real life learning comes from outside the classroom, or if at all it is in the classroom, it better come from somebody who has learned a lot about life, right? And with that, I wish you a beautiful learning journey, because remember, you are the abundance that you seek. Now, pause this and get down to action, get down to integration. Put down three things. Today, you realize why I keep talking about it. Very important. Many of you have been commenting beautifully on the videos, but share three things that you've learned, because that is going to make a difference to your life. You can share more than three, but three at least. Have a beautiful time, and I send you loads of love. I'll see you tomorrow. Also, if there are any topics that you want to request for, we have some scope within one day. So make sure you put that down in the comments. I want to hear from each one of you. Take care of yourselves. Bye.